Good morning. Hey, Trost, I see you in the chat. Nikki, Emily, Code Pixie. Good morning. Thanks for joining me. How are y'all doing? Good morning. Chilling. Awesome. So yesterday, streamed and made some good progress on a Gatsby site that we built from scratch following my blog post. I can just link that one more time. So we followed this blog post here, create an MDX powered Gatsby site from scratch. And what we're doing is we're building a brand new website for my full-time job, All Turtles, following this design here from Figma, which I did not design. I'm just doing the front-end development and DevOps infrastructure. And we left off with, is All Turtles a real thing? Yes, it is. I'll show you their website. So All Turtles was founded by Phil Libin, the ex-CEO of Evernote. It is turtles all the way down, yes. And we're redesigning the site to be less of a content hub and more of a like agency style to better represent the type of work we've been doing. So yesterday we left off with some to-dos, which we're going to go through here. Make this a little bigger. Before I do that, though, I just want to talk about my plan for the day. So I think this morning stream is going to be mostly planning and just kind of rehashing and talking through yesterday and plans for the future, plans for later today. So I'm going to stream for about an hour, another like 45 minutes. And then I'm going to take a break. I have a meeting for All Turtles, a full all hands meeting, and I'm going to get some lunch. And then we're going to come back. I'm going to stream again in the afternoon for a bit longer and do a bunch of coding and make a ton of progress, styling and building out the components as per the design. I could never hear to do without also hearing Baby Shark. I think I don't know the reference. Maybe I don't want to know the reference. Okay. Okay, so yesterday, deployment was succeeding in Circle, but we weren't seeing it live update on the staging domain. So the first to do was to fix that, which I did. Fix that off stream last night. I was trying to deploy the dist folder. However, if you're familiar with Gatsby, the build folder is called public. So that was the issue. That's why it was succeeding, and we weren't seeing the changes reflected. So we can actually see the progress here at the staging domain. This is hosted on Amazon S3. I configured it by hand, the CDN, CloudFront, Route 53, etc., DNS rules. Maybe not the best way to do it. I would love to have my infrastructure as code. I don't know if Robert Tables is here. Don't think so, but would love to have him teach me some Terraform or CloudFormation or something. Regardless, we do have it working. And so this is where we got to yesterday. And then I also have it running locally here. So deployment is fixed. And I made a quick repo with my Circle CI config. I know Circle is maybe not quite as popular, especially in the Party Corgi Discord. People love GitHub Actions and Netlify to kind of do all this stuff for you. Over at All Turtles, we kind of default to AWS and not necessarily Amplify. So a lot of this is done by hand, and we use Circle for most of our deployments. So I'm going to bring that up, that repo. So get my GitHub over here. Let's look at my recent repos. So here's our config YAML file. There's some cool things to point out here. I do think this is blog post worthy or potentially even screencast worthy on how this was all set up. I'm using a new Circle CI feature called contexts, which lets me set environment variables that are shared across projects. So it's super handy for keeping your Circle config dry and not repeating yourself too much. So I'm using I don't know what the correct term is for a YAML variable, but this is a YAML variable. You can kind of think of it like that with my deploy instructions. We're not going to get into exactly what's going on here, but essentially I'm using the AWS CLI on the Circle servers to sync with my AWS S3 bucket. You can kind of see that here, AWS S3 sync after installing the AWS CLI. And what's cool about this is it supports multiple environments based on the branch name. So we've got a staging branch and a master branch. When I push to staging, it runs a build command specific to staging, which might set some environment variables or other keys. And then we've also got the same thing here for the workflow and the jobs. So the way this works is kind of top or bottom to top. This is kind of like the table of contents, like what's going on, the outline. So we've got our workflows, and we only have one workflow, and I called it build deploy. And this build deploy has jobs. It really only has two jobs. It has build and deploy, but it deploys differently depending on which branch we're on. And you can see I'm using the context staging for the deploy to staging. And I'm also filtering by branch name. So this job only runs when the staging branch changes. I'm Crifty. What's up? How are you doing today? We are reviewing what I did on stream yesterday, and then we're going to kind of plan for my afternoon stream, both what we're going to code and also some content ideas, blog ideas that come out of the stuff we're learning. Right now we're going through how I cleaned up my Circle CI config for continuous deployment. Okay, so we were talking about the two jobs, the build and the deploy jobs. So the build here is the same for every branch, every environment. Where things might branch off is with this if statement here. So if the branch is master, we're running build production, and if it's staging, we're running build staging. Right now, this isn't doing anything different. It's still running the same build command, but you can imagine, maybe if this was hooked up to Stripe, for example, the staging branch would use a testing Stripe key so that we're not actually charging real money when we're QAing our application. So I'm kind of preparing for the future just based on past experience. Moving on. So this is running build, just like Gatsby build. And then the second job is the deployment. And this is where contexts come in handy. We have a different S3 bucket for staging and production. But because of context, Circle CI context, which is a new feature, I can link this out. Should probably link out this. And also the official docs, Circle CI context. So this is a relatively new feature, but essentially what it does is let you set org level environment variables. And then we can use that context, back to my repo, we can use that context and then keep the same environment variable names for different environment deploys. And that context, one last time, is being set here in our deploy job. So on branch staging, the context is set to staging, which means we're going to be using the staging context environment variables. So I do think there's a blog post in here kind of explaining both contexts, multiple environments, and also we could even get into like what is going on here in this AWS CLI command. I'm Crifty says, I'm all good, just finished work. So you must be in a different time zone than me. It is 12:16 p.m. here on the East Coast in the US. Not a fan of the project I'm working on. That's the worst. I've definitely gone through a couple of those, and you just kind of have to grunt through it because you need to keep the job, right? What can you tell me a little bit more about the project you're working on and why you don't like it? So I'm adding to this to-do markdown, specifically content ideas that are coming out of this project. Maybe this could live in Notion or a different markdown file, but for now it's small enough, I'm going to just leave it in here. So blog post and or screencast on Circle CI config with multiple environments using contexts. And we're deploying specifically to S3. There's definitely variance here. Like my personal site is hosted on Firebase, so the deploy step is different. The use of context might be the same because we're deploying to different Firebase projects. Context is a CI thing. Yes, the word context is definitely used in a lot of areas. React context, for example. But right now we're specifically talking about Circle CI. What context does is allows us to set organization level environment variables that can be shared across repos and projects in Circle specifically. Okay, so the other thing we were talking about yesterday was scaffolding components quickly using HiJen. So you probably, if you've been on my streams before, you've probably heard me talk about HiJen. What HiJen does is lets you run a pretty simple command in your CLI to execute arbitrary instructions to create files or inject lines in other files, however you'd like. When you're trying to move quickly, and we're going to be making lots and lots of components here, having HiJen installed and set up correctly will greatly increase our speed and efficiency, and also make our components very consistent in the way they are boilerplated. I think I just made that word up. Is it like Yeoman? No, not quite. It's not scaffolding. I mean, I don't know the full extent of what Yeoman is capable of. I did use it a long time ago, years ago. My understanding is that Yeoman is for scaffolding entire projects. So in that sense, it is the same. You can just generate a bunch of code. But HiJen is kind of smaller scale than that. We're not generating a whole new React project from scratch. We just want one React component. So we're going to look at that today, setting up HiJen for our specific use case, which is a Gatsby React component. So we'll probably just make one generator to create a React component, and then maybe export it from an index file, kind of like this example shows. This example is actually very similar to the type of work that I do. We don't have Storybook installed, so nor do we have tests on this project because it is a fairly static, not too interactive application. So we'll be generating a component and some styling, as well as injecting into our index. I've been using make files for that, but it's not perfect. Cool. Yeah, this kind of gives you a framework to work within. You could even create prompts, for example. So like you might say HiJen component new, and then it'll say, what is the name of your component? You type that in, press enter, and then maybe there's other information you might want to add. Like, does this component require styling, yes or no? So we're going to look at that and add HiJen to our project before we get too much further, just because the sooner HiJen is set up, the quicker we're going to be able to work as we create new components. So every component we do by hand is kind of time wasted. All right, so fixed deployment, this is done. I forget the markdown for strike through, or maybe we don't want strike through, but like checkbox. How do I check a checkbox in markdown? 2 wavy dashes. Nick, do you know how to check a checkbox? Place the white space with an X. Thank you, Joseph. Good to see you, Joseph. Awesome. Y'all saved me a Google. I appreciate that. Oh, we don't want to check all of these though. Okay, so this is up on the list for today. The deployment fix I did off stream because I didn't want to accidentally reveal any keys. It also was kind of a stupid mistake. But HiJen, we're going to do that. Either start it before lunch or maybe after lunch first thing. I also need to install a component or an NPM module that has components in it. Like, so I created a open source module for things like this logo here that gets used at work a lot. Also, we have other variants of this logo here, and that's on on the GitHub package registry. So we can actually probably look at what it's like to install something from the GitHub package registry while also using NPM side by side. So we'll look at that, and then we'll just get to it and start cranking through the content and the styling to bring this to life. Just if you haven't seen the design yet, this is the home page here, just a long scroll. There's going to be some animation eventually, not in the first release. We've got responsive styling all the way down. And then clicking on each one of these will bring you to a case study detail page. So there's a mini case study detail page, or a small version, which is what you see here. And then there's also a longer form case study page. So we're going to start with the small one and work our way towards the long one over the course of the next week or two. What is All Turtles? Good question. All Turtles is where I work. It's my full-time job. I will link you. So we are redesigning. I'm the lead web developer at All Turtles, and I'm in charge of the development of our new site. We are pivoting away from this content hub style and more towards what you saw in the Figma file, which is kind of like an agency style with, here is our work showcased for you. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the name came from. I do know that there are no turtles on the screen. Yeah, both are really well designed in my opinion. I was not involved in either of these designs, although I do design work at All Turtles. For this, I'm just the developer. And I got to choose Gatsby. Eventually, we're going to be adding a CMS. That's probably weeks away. But we're going to start by building a very static Gatsby site. We can see that progress here. This is where we got to yesterday. We just scaffolded from scratch a brand new Gatsby site. And then we're going to take this all the way to a finished design with a CMS for things like adding a new case study. Not sure which CMS yet. We might play with Sanity or Prismic or something. Maybe try out both. So I'm going to close this tab. If you are just tuning in, this is the blog post I used yesterday to go from 0 to MDX in a Gatsby site. I'll link it one last time. Cool. So back to content ideas. We covered the changes I made to the Circle CI config. And I do think there is room for a blog post or tutorial or potentially even a screencast on how that Circle CI config is working. Specifically, very opinionated towards S3. Why MDX and not simply Markdown? So MDX supports everything that Markdown does, and we can include React components right next to our Markdown. So this is Markdown right here, but if this were MDX, we could do something like this, right next to our Markdown, which allows us to include, interactive elements in our content authoring process. You can see this exemplified on my site. We can look at, actually the blog post we were just looking at has this in it. For example, here, I'm looking for the diff section here. So this is a React component that is interactive. For example, you can see this hover on the lines. It doesn't actually do anything, but this could be clickable. Another good example is Josh. I have his site somewhere. Yeah. So Josh's site does this really well, better than I'm doing. Let's see if we can find an example. As you can see here, we have an interactive component sitting right next to our Markdown. Definitely encourage you to explore more of Josh's content. There's definitely other really cool things that he does on his blog posts that are very interactive. Josh's site is gorgeous. It's definitely a huge inspiration for me. It's very polished. Like not only, we'll look at it one more time. Not only does it just look good when you land here, but there's so many little surprises. Like you saw the avatar kind of pop out. Let's see if we can get that to happen again. It does have sound, which is cool. I don't think I'm going to do it on my site. Oh, here's a great example of an interactive component living right next to Markdown. This little heart here for, liking an article. Nice little piece of polish. You can even see it demoed here in a video. What else? You get the sparkles, counter, hit counter, hover over a read more link. Sure, let's try it. Read more. So yeah, just delightful animations. It's just so good. Even got themes. Oh, that's not themes. Themes, right? All this is stuff I wish I had on my site. Just haven't had time to get to yet. Huge inspiration. Definitely check him out. Follow him on Twitter. Super fun. The counter is such a classic. Exactly. Yeah. I definitely had counters on my MySpace or something years ago. Definitely joyful. So yeah, I'm kind of, working towards it, taking inspiration from him. I'd love to have a theme toggle up here. I'm pretty happy with my hero. My footer needs work. I need a newsletter. I have ideas for more top-level navigation. See, we're getting there. All right, let's get back on track. We've got about 25 more minutes just for this early morning planning stream. I think we could maybe get started with HiJen. I think HiJen is also a content idea. There's a blog post to be had around setting up HiJen for something like a simple component. So if you do, and everyone has a different way of doing things. I'm using styled components here. If you're using CSS, your HiJen might look different. Your HiJen generator might look different. But I'm going to do it from a blog post or tutorial from my point of view, or my opinionated way of styling, which is styled components. We could also look at other features that HiJen has to offer, like interactive command prompts. Also injecting lines of code into arbitrary files. Cool. I think these are great content ideas that can come out of this stream, and the stream can kind of be an exploratory, what questions do people have, what kind of snags do I run into when talking through it, and I can tee it up nicely, tee up a blog post or a tutorial or screencast really nicely. It is cozy. That's a good way to put it, Joseph. Pixie says, I'm really inspired by your website too, Ryan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very slowly working on my own site, and it's so intimidating looking at other people's sites. Yeah, it's an iteration game. I think that there are plenty of really good writers out there that have very simple sites. Joel's site, for example, this gets the job done, right? It's not flashy, but it's clean. It doesn't have anything unnecessary. And it's a place for him to publish a lot, publish consistently. I think above all else, it has good typography, good visual hierarchy. And there's probably even themes out there that can get you set up with just some simple, good type styles. And then from there, you can iterate. My site didn't start the way it was. Let's see if we can bring up the V1 of my site. I do want to archive that. It'd be cool if I could do v1.warner.code, something like this. So we could view the V1 on my site. But my V1 started out much simpler, right? It's actually very similar to Joel's site. Here we just got a blurb at the top, and then some highlighted articles that are surfaced. For me, it was just latest, but it could be hand-picked or whatever. So I would try your best not to get intimidated, because you'll get there eventually. Also strong agree with inspired by Ryan's site. Yes, Nikki, I remember bringing you on stream. That was really fun. I think you grabbed a couple styles or inspiration from colors from my site. Do you drive HiJen via NPM scripts? Yes, absolutely. Makes it very easy to wrap it all up in a simple macro. Yeah, I think I have to make peace with the fact that my first version is going to be very much a first draft. Yes. And that's totally fine. You could launch your site and not tell anybody, or maybe tell one or two people that you are, close with and okay to be vulnerable around. That's kind of what I did actually with the V2 of my site. I only told Prince and Ben Lannon over voice chat in Discord. I haven't even tweeted out the V2 of my site yet because I'm just not happy with where it's at. Like, my site has plenty of issues. I don't want to get stuck here too long, but if you look at mobile, you've got this menu here that does absolutely nothing. I'm kind of surprised no one has called me out on this yet. But yeah, I don't feel great about this, but it's just the way it is right now. Other things have taken priority. Good. I'm glad that makes you feel better. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big tweet. It doesn't have to be a big announcement. It doesn't need to be a launch day. You could just push it live silently, soft launch it, and then iterate on it over a few weeks. And then maybe you get it to a point where you're like, wow, I'm really proud of this. I've got a few articles here now. The design is in a good spot. I'm going to tweet it out. No one has to know that it actually was, originally launched a month before. All right, let's look at HiJen. So I guess first we need to install it. I've already got it installed globally, or do I actually? I actually been preferring not to install things globally, so let's install it as a dev dependency. So I'm actually going to make a branch for this because we are kind of working in a very isolated scope here. We're not just like getting started with scaffolding. So we're going to check out a new branch called HiJen, and then we're going to install it as a dev dependency. I have to head out, but I'll try to pop in when you get back on later. See you around. See you around the interweb. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to be signing off here in actually like 20 minutes. And then I'll be back on later in the afternoon, like 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern, for a longer sesh with some intense styling and content coding. Looks like there's a new version of NPM. Might as well install that too while we're here. Okay, so HiJen is installed. I think we can commit here. And let's see what's next. So now it's installed as a dev dependency. We can't just call HiJen like this. We do need to use npx. So npx HiJen. And we can see it is installed. It's saying, please specify a generator. We don't have any generators yet, so we're going to make one. So I've done this before in other projects. So we can look at that and bring it up my personal site. Let's see here. Templates. So yeah, HiJen asks you to create a templates folder. Looks like there's also a generator for a generator, which is cool. Maybe we should try that out. Just reading the documentation. It's been a while. Maybe we should just go through these docs for the sake of learning. Let's try it. HiJen init self. Oh, npx HiJen init self. All right, so it added some like boilerplate generators, and let's take a look in the code here. So get rid of my personal site for now. We'll probably come back to that and take a look at it. Templates. So we have help, new, and with prompt. All right, what's next? HiJen generator help to see the generator. Let's try it. So npx HiJen generator help. So this is giving us a list of which generators we have and how to use them. So if we wanted to use the the new generator, we need to pass in a name and an action. So that's the generator. And then if we want to use the with prompt generator, we also need a name and an action. Okay, there's more steps here. HiJen generator, new, awesome generator. So we're actually going to change the name to something more realistic. So let's make a new generator called component. So we added a file here, an EJS template file called hello. Let's take a look at that in the VS Code. So here it is, new, hello. And let's see what we've got here. We've got 2, so I think this is where the file is going to live. And then this is the content of the file. I'm not sure why there's multiple 2s here. I think this is a good spot to just cut over to work I've done previously. So here's the component that I usually use. This actually does need some updating. So I'm going to copy some stuff over here and then go through it. So we want a generator called component. And we're going to make a, hey, Flying Dev, Fabio, how's it going? Thank you for the raid. How was your stream? I saw the notification. Wasn't able to hop in today. I was working on a screencast for Egghead. Noticing a bit of green screen. Wonder if some lighting could fix that. We'll see if that helps. Yeah, I think that helped a little bit. Working on the Twitch connector. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are you connecting to Twitch? So my generator is going to create 2 files. It's going to create component file and a styles file. So I'm just going to copy and paste some of this over. We'll copy this file first. And let's look through this a bit. So where is this file going to be saved, and what is it going to be named? We're going to save it in source/components, which is the standard in Gatsby for where components live. And then it's going to be named after a variable that gets passed in at the command line. So in our case, it's going to be components/component name, which is going to be a folder, and the file name will be the same name. And then every component that I make imports React from React. It also imports styles, our styled components, from a styles file that lives as a sibling inside the component directory. Okay. Next we have some very basic, I think I make a div. So we're going to make a const named after the component that takes one argument, props, as any functional component does. And then inside here, we're going to have a div wrapper, and it's going to have some text that is also the name, and that's about it. I do think I want to be a little bit more verbose here and wrap this in curly braces and user return. Other than that, this is feeling pretty good. So next we're going to grab our styles. So every component that has some amount of styling is going to get a styles file. So let's paste that in. And we can see we're doing the same thing. We're specifying where we want this file to live. It's going to live in the component directory, and each one is always going to be called the same thing, which is styles.js. And to just kick things off, we're importing styled from styled components and creating one styled component, which is just a simple div, which we use here. Cool. And then the last thing is this inject. And inject is a keyword in HiJen. So this is a special file name. I'm not sure, like, if you wanted, you can't have multiple injects. So what we're going to do here is inject a line into an already existing file. So here I'm going to inject in this file the components index. So we can take a look at what that looks like. It actually does not exist. So let's make that real quick. And what we're going to inject is this export here. We're going to export the new component from the new component directory, the new component file. So I think this is ready to go. Let's give it a test. So npx HiJen component new, and then we need to give it a name. Let's use something real. Back to the design file. Maybe like case study excerpt or case study card. It's not really a card styling. I'm going to go with it anyway. So case study card. All right, so I don't think this worked. Probably because of the example that we made. So let's debug this and take a break to respond to Fabio. I'm sure it will be a good screen catch. I'm using OPS Droid Python bot framework. Cool. I've worked with Python just a very little bit. Seems like a nice language. To connect to Twitch, working on a connector so far, but need to refactor and write tests. So it's kind of a live testing the bot as well. So, so it's a Twitch bot that you're building? I'm just going to get rid of these examples. Make sure they're not interfering. And let's try this again. It's going to run the same command. Added app hello. Maybe I didn't. No, I did save. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. I think there might be multiple ways to like organize your HiJen templates and generators. So we actually don't want this living here. I'm going to delete this. We want component living outside generator, like this. And let's try this again. There we go. So we got some good output here in our terminal. We added a file here. We injected into the index, and then we added a styles file as well. So let's take a look at that. So we can see case study card, new directory. We can see what this file contains. Just a simple functional component that imports our styles. And then lastly, we've got the components index file that just exports that for easy importing later on. Listen to the chat and webhooks, and you can do stuff with the commands events. That's really cool. Yeah, I wish I had a Twitch bot sitting in my chat. That'd be dope. I'm Crifty. Thank you for the follow. I know I missed that 24 minutes ago. So I've got some commands that are not bot specific. These are running in a browser source using comfy.js. We've got Fireball, we've got Rainbow Fireball, we've got Hadouken, and then we've got Heal. Thanks, Trust. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with what I could do there. You can see some of them like kind of flying towards my head. I think I have to look this way. But what I want to do is create a hitbox so that when it hits me, I lose a heart. I've probably said that like 5 streams now and have not yet done it. And I probably won't do it for another 5 streams, but I think it's a cool idea nonetheless. All right. I think this is a good time. Yeah, making my stream a video game. Exactly. It could be an RPG even. Like I could hook it up to a database. And then the Comfy.js, I could bring that up and link it. Comfy.js gives you all kinds of information about each chat message, including who the user is, if they're a sub, if they follow, all this stuff. So I could let people level up their address. Yeah, I could just go over to their house and order stuff as them on Amazon. So based on if they're a sub or not, maybe their fireball has better accuracy, or maybe it does more damage if they sub to the channel. Maybe they earn experience points each time they hit me, and I could keep track of that in a database. Here is Comfy.js. If anyone is interested in adding cool chat commands to their stream, InstaFluff makes it super duper easy. Yeah, like I could be the boss, right? And y'all could be trying to kill me throughout the stream, and maybe there's some restriction on the amount of times I can heal, or maybe I can attack back somehow. Maybe the chat has health and I have health, and y'all are working as a team to try and kill me before the stream's over. I don't know. And like if you do kill me, you get the whole chat gets more experience points. Like maybe you have to sub in order to kill me or something. Lots of cool ideas there that I'd love to explore. So we just use HiJen to create a new component. Let's add it to the screen and like render it just to make sure it's working. Let's check out our components index. No, we want pages index. And here we want to import case study card. And because of the new components index, we can actually import this not as a default, but as a named export. And it should work. Eventually this will probably live in this map actually. So we can just put it in here for now and see if it's rendering out. Cool, so we can see case study card is being rendered, which means our HiJen generator is working as intended. So it's a good time for a commit. So right now, the command for running HiJen is npx HiJen component new name and then the name. That's a lot to type. That's too much to type. So what we can do is head over to our package JSON and create a custom script. So we could do something like new component that can then run this So all we have to do is type npx new component and then the component name. So let's try that out. I'm just going to commit this right now so we can throw away the next changes. So we're going to add a custom npm script to run the HiJen component generator. And to test this, we run npx new component my component, I think. No. So I guess it's got to be npm run new component name. There we go. So that works. It's slightly less typing. It's also very explicit what we need to do. So I'm going to throw these away. Git stash. And what we're going to do next is take it one step further. And this is going to be a little bit dangerous. I'm going to bring up my bash profile and hope that doesn't come up on my screen. No, it does. Okay. Don't worry, there was nothing secret there. Just making sure. Cool, we're good. We can actually look at this. So what I did is create an alias, which is just 2 characters, nc for new component, that runs the full npx command. So now I can just do nc my component, and boom, we got a new component. So now every time we want to make a new component, it's going to look the same. It's going to do the right things, be exported from the right files. Consistent function signature, consistent spacing, etc., for every new component. So this is awesome. Throw these changes away, and then we can go ahead and push this. So I've got about 2 minutes before I need to take a break for a meeting and some lunch. So for the next 30 seconds, we're going to merge this PR. So we're going to allturtles.com, make a new pull request, and we're going to be merging into staging here, not ready to deploy to production yet. So we're going to add HiJen component generator. Can now scaffold new components using npx HiJen component new name, or use the custom npm script. Cool, and I am the only dev on this project, so I'm just going to go ahead and merge this without waiting for any review. And this should deploy, or will deploy. Not that there's really any changes worth seeing. But yeah, that's awesome. We can check this off on our, let's get on my bash profile. Let's go to our to-dos. We can check this off on our to-do list. So when we come back later, I will be looking at using the GitHub package registry to use my module. And then from there, we're going to be set up to crank. We're just going to be cranking content, cranking styles, and getting this site to look like the Figma design. So thanks for joining me on this short morning stream. I'm going to do a short stream ending scene and then see you all in an hour or two. Apparently my stream ending scene broke. Just blank. I could probably fix this on the afternoon stream. Anyways, peace.